All right, 1 second here. All right. All right. Welcome on to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome on to this Q&A. A few things came up. One that I didn't get to at the end of the last Q&A, so I want to actually want to deal with that. And I was accused of actually ducking the issue before actually I had to go. So obviously I had to go. I wasn't ducking the issue, but I just want to deal with this, get this off my chest. Someone had commented basically that Ezekiel, if you look at Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 31 to 38, right? One day I think at some point I'll give classes on Tanakh as well. That so Ezekiel, says, at the beginning, he says, son of man, say to the elders, Jewish people, they've come to inquire of me. I won't be inquired by you. You contend with them. I lifted my hand, the seed of Jacob. I made myself known. I took them out of Egypt, etc. And I brought them to a land flowing with milk and honey. And everyone had to get rid of their idols, but they rebelled against me. My anger was against them. And again, I brought them out of the land of Egypt. Verse 10, gave them my statutes, my ordinances, etc. But they rebelled against me. And I lifted my hand against them in the wilderness. They despised my ordinances. I mean, you see the common theme here, that the Jewish people didn't do what God said. Okay. Right, that is pretty clear. Yeah, get rid of their idols. Get rid of their idols, and all that. Again, verse 20 or 21, they rebelled against me. They didn't walk my statutes. They didn't observe my commandments. They didn't keep my Sabbath. I drew back my hands. I lifted my hands, to them, scattered them amongst the nations, etc. Right? So what did God do? God got angry and punished them. Right? Punished them. Very good. Totally punished them for not keeping Torah. Makes sense. Right? Makes sense. Now, the Torah, so the prophet continues. Again, I want to go through this a little bit just to show what's going on here. And it says in verse 31, when you take gifts, God's children pass through fire, i.e., the idolatry of Molech. I'm going to inquire of you. Why'd you do it? Right? You defile yourselves. Right? Don't be like the nations, like the families of the land, blah, blah, blah. Verse 33, as I live, show with the strong hand, outstretched arm, I'm going to pour out my fury. God's angry. Right? I'll take you out of the peoples. I'll gather you from the lands. Oh, good. Take you out of the peoples. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means they're going to disperse you. They're going to disown you. God's got no choice. He made a covenant with the Jewish people. Remember, he made a covenant with the Jewish people. He chose us. We chose him. That covenant's forever, regardless of what the Christians say, regardless of what the Muslims say. Right? Bottom line is that he punished us. He threw us out of the land. He dispersed us, caused us a lot of pain, right? A lot of harm, and all that, to our betterment. And he says, I contended with your forefathers, and I should you pass under the rods. Again, it's all about punishment. It's all simply about punishment, dispersion, exile. Yeah. Then he says in verse 38, I shall separate you from those who rebel, those who transgress against me, I shall take them, but to the land of Israel, they shall not come. I am the Lord your God. Now, what does it tell you? Without even looking at the commentaries. Yeah, what does that tell you? There are evil people, or there will be evil people amongst the Jewish people. Good. Right? There always are. There always are people that do not keep Torah mitzvahs. That's true. That is true. So they are going to get punished. And the Jewish people as a whole get punished. But the other people that didn't do this, they're going to go in the land. They're going to go in the land that God promised. Very good. The other people don't get there. They don't deserve to be there. They're not going to get there. Okay. Now, the claim was, not exactly sure where the claim come from, but the claim was that this is talking about where we're not the real Jews anymore. We've been dispersed, we've been exiled, we've been punished, we've been thrown out, right? I mean, very graphic. Very, very graphic. What the Jewish people have done. Okay. And what happened? So even if that's true, nowhere in the text says God's forsaken everybody, right? There's always going to be a remnant, at the end of days. Even with this war of Gog and Magog, right? Even with this war of Gog and Magog, it's going to be a remnant left. Some of the Jewish people will be left. I don't know how many, but hopefully those keeping Torah mitzvahs should be left. So if that's true, it doesn't mean everybody. It'll never mean everybody. But the claim what the Christians make is that JC came, died for all your sins, so you don't have to do anything. Jewish people don't have to do anything. And we're not chosen anymore. But where do you see? So this person's claiming it's from this text. We're not the real Israelite, right? So the claim was, you bring me proof. Show me proof. I want concrete proof. I just quickly read over the text. Yeah, I didn't glorify the text. I didn't go, and nitpick every single word, whatever. There's nowhere in the text that shows that. That shows in any way, shape, or form, A, that we're not chosen, right? And B, that God exchanged us for another nation. God will never exchange us for another nation. Right? It'll never happen. God will go back to Mount Sinai and say, I'm going to take another nation. But you see, logically, or let's say better, logic would tell me, beyond the shadow of a doubt, God cannot go against what Moses said. Because God says in front of 3 million people, 2 to 3 million people, what does God say? Moses, my trusted servant. You can't add or subtract to the Torah. Moses says, very good. So what do you do with Jeremiah chapter 30? Jeremiah chapter 30 is what? It's about a new covenant. How could there ever be a new covenant? It's a good question why it says new covenant. Okay, but why? How can there be a new covenant? There can never be a new covenant. Because you cannot contradict what Moses said. And who said that? God himself in front of 3 million people. Now, if you look at the beginning of the chapter, which the Christians never do, because they pick and choose how they look at verses, the whole chapter is talking about going back to the original covenant that God is chastising Jewish people. Very good. He's chastising them because they're not keeping the old covenant. Okay. But that doesn't mean we're not chosen anymore. That doesn't mean that there's a new covenant. What kind of new covenant can there be? A new covenant means you break the old covenant, right? That had nothing to do with the old covenant. That's what it seems to say. But it can't mean that. It can't mean that. Forget about Kabbalah, forget about the rabbis, forget about everything. Logic. What does logic tell me? You cannot go against the prophecy of Moses. Period. You can never, ever go against, ever. You can't go against the prophecy of Moses. Can never happen. So good. Person's got a good question. Why does it say new covenant? But if I look at the chapter itself in context, what does it tell me? The chapter itself tells me that we're reconnecting. We need to reconnect to the old covenant. That's what it means. That's what it means. right? Somebody points out the Haftorah of this week's parsha echoes that same thing. Very good, right? That the relationship with the Jewish people is eternal. It never changed, right? So the Christians say this a number of times, but every single time, which is not hard to find, every single time they're going to twist it, turn it into a pretzel, and take it out of context. This, I don't even see what, I understand Jewish people got punished, and they got severely punished. Very good. They got severely punished. Now, I was learning today, just actually interesting, as I'm working my way through the book of Isaiah. So I just started chapter 11, and verse 10, 11, 12 talks about Mashiach, and talks about how the basically wolves are going to sit with sheep, and you got lions going to sit with oxen, and you got little kids going to put their hands in the mouth of a snake, or commentators say like deadly snake or whatever, and nothing bad's going to happen. Right? So there's a question over here, okay, that there's going to be peace. There's going to be peace in the land. And seemingly animals who are programmed DNA, animals themselves, very interesting. Now, there is a question, do they change? Do they change their DNA or not? Right? Seemingly over here, they change their DNA. They're going to go back and eat grass, the verse says. They're going to eat straw. Even carnivorous animals, they're going to eat straw. Now, what would that tell me? They're not going to eat animals. Their nature changes, right? Their nature is going to change. So there seems to be a discrepancy in the commentaries whether 100% that's going to be true or not. It seems from the verses it's going to change the nature. That's what it sounds like, right? Not so simple. But in any case, what does it say over there? It says they're going to lie in peace. The whole land's going to be in peace. So this is what Isaiah says. So now, one of the things, and the Messiah has to have six different character traits, right? Actually, maybe I'll bring it up here. 1 second. Yeah, what does Isaiah say? Let me just bring it up here. Verse 10, chapter 11, verse 10. Isaiah says another thing, forgot to mention, but it shall come to pass on that day, the root of Jesse, right? The Messiah is going to be an offspring of Yishai, right? It has to come from Yishai. Will be a banner for the peoples. The nations are going to inquire, right? And they're going to want to be peaceful with him. The commentators say they're going to be attracted to him. They're going to attract them like a magnet. Not going to do anything without asking him, whoever the nation survive. Yeah, pretty mind-boggling. Then it'll come. That was before. Sorry, that was. Sorry, that was previous. Whatever, we'll go through that also. But previous chapter, I think it's the end of the chapter. Remnant of Israel return. 1 second, I thought it was here. Maybe, all right, maybe I jumped the gun. 1 second. Beginning of chapter 11. It says the shoot shall spring from the stem of Jesse, right? Again, offspring of Yishai. And the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, right? First of all, he's gonna have prophecy. He's gonna have prophecy, he's gonna have wisdom, understanding, spirit of counsel, heroism, spirit of knowledge, and fear of God. He'll be animated with fear of God. And the side of his eye is not going to judge, not with his ears, it's going to judge properly, etc. So then it says, a wolf shall live with a lamb, leopard shall lie with a kid, calf and a lion come together, right? Fatling shall lie together, small child shall lead them, and a cow and a bear shall graze together, children shall lie, and a lion like cattle shall eat straw. An infant shall play over the hole of a snake, an old snake, over the eyeball of an adder. Again, no type of snake. Weaned child stretch forth his hand, nothing bad's going to happen. They shouldn't harm him, destroy him, etc. And the land shall be full of knowledge of God. Now, commentaries all seem to say, or let's say better, there's a question. There is a question whether the animals totally change their nature or not. Okay, there's a question. Yeah, the question whether that, if that's going to happen. But the Messiah has to have certain character traits. That's one thing. And the second thing is that everybody's going to inquire of God. Even the nations, whoever survives, right? This war of Gog and Magog, they're all going to inquire of God. It's going to be a world of godliness in the world. That's what it's going to be. Now, if these are the character traits of the Messiah, as Isaiah points out, and it's got to come from the tribe of David, right? It's got to come from King David. Very good. Now, if you meet those character traits and you did all that, we'll have a discussion. None of this has happened. Just the opposite. We're still, during his time, is a total, wars going on, strife. You didn't have this. You didn't have this. The nation's in awe of the Jewish people. The nation's in awe of this Messiah. They're going to ask advice, whatever they do. Never happened. It's never happened in the history of man. Right? So, again, everyone agrees Isaiah is a prophet. Right? Everyone agrees. So, everyone agrees Isaiah is a prophet. So, what's the question? Right? What's the question? So, it's very fitting, kind of prophetic in a certain way. I happen to be learning that this morning. And, it's clear. It's clear as day. So they have their convoluted ideas of, what the Messiah is, what he's coming, all that. Okay. So according to Ezekiel, we answered that. According to this, we answered that. That's one thing. It's one thing I wanted to hit. Second thing, which I found very interesting, is that someone contacted me. I spoke to earlier. And so the person had a question. They feel they're a non-Jew. They really want to convert. They really want to convert to Judaism. But they have this, I'm not going to say obsession, but they have this passion, let's say better, right? They have this passion. What do they want? They feel that in the place they live, there are a lot of Ovdei Vodazar, a lot of idol worshippers. And they feel they can influence certain things and convince people to be B'nai Noah, to be noahide. So what was the question? Question is, they feel they're compelled. They feel in their heart of hearts, they're compelled. They feel compelled, which most people feel this in this case, and that is they want to convert. They want to be Jews. And they're willing to do whatever it takes. But at the same time, they're pulled in another direction. They feel they want to, help all these people and convince them not to be noahide. So the question was, which path should I take? That was the question. So, I mentioned, my Rabbi's response, the longest one is probably written in any of his books, whether a Jew, forget a non-Jew, right? But whether a Jew has an obligation to reach out to non-Jews to keep their mitzvahs. Now, the mitzvahs of non-Jews, the noahide laws, as we call them, right? The Shem mitzvahs b'nei Noach. The noahide laws are all universal. They are things that anyone could figure out. don't steal, don't kill. They can figure it out. They're not going to get upstairs after 120 years after they die. God's going to say, hey, how come we didn't keep my noahide laws? They're going to say, noahide laws, never heard of it. Can't even pronounce it, right? Never heard of it. Well, what do you mean? It says don't steal. It says, I didn't steal. It said, what about the thing on your taxes and whatever? No, that's different. Uncle Sam takes too much. Or what about murder? It says don't kill. So no, euthanasia. Grandpa was very sick and suffering. That's not murder. So these are universal things, right? So we've spoken about this many times. I'm not going to rehash it, but the point is, do I have an obligation to reach out to people, and teach them this if it's universal? Now, if they come to me, good. They want to learn, I can help them. If they don't, they want to worship cows or whatever, okay, their choice. 100% their choice. Their choice. Now, based on that, if he says there's no obligation, doesn't bring down anywhere, I have an obligation to reach out to them. Even though someone's dogged me for a long time saying we're a light into nations. So if we're a light into nations, now understand the concept. We're a light into nations. Now, according to them, what does that mean? What does that partially mean? Since we're a light into nations, I have an obligation. No, just a good idea. I have an obligation to go out there and sell Torah to non-Jews. People say I'm doing that anyway. Right? It's not proselytization. They want to convert, good. They don't want to convert, they can say no. It's not a problem. Right? So we should be out there, right? According to this person, we should be out there because we're a light into nations. Makesha. What's the connection? I agree. Someone wants to learn, we have an obligation to teach them. Fine. I don't have an issue with that. I have to go looking for them. Right? So anyway, my Rabbi says no, there's no obligation. So I told this person also, if there was a choice, someone came in front of me, in front of any Jew. There's a Jew and a non-Jew. Yeah. You have a choice. You're limited in time. You can help the non-Jew learn about the noahide laws, or you could try bring the Jew back to Judaism. Who are you going to choose? You're limited in time. You can only choose one. What are you going to do? You're going to take the Jew. Now you're going to say, oh, it's discrimination. We're talking about apples and oranges here. Non-Jew has to keep what he needs to keep universally. I shouldn't even have to teach that. Nobody should have to teach that. It's obvious, right? The universal law. To bring a Jew back, who can, uphold the world, through their learning and mitzvahs, totally different thing. So I told this person, he says, what happens if I get upstairs after 120 years after I die? What happens where God could have a claim against me, right? He could have a claim against me. He could say, you could have done this, you could have reached your potential. How do you know that's not what my potential is? Right? So I said, okay, I'll tell you another story. So most people know when I want to go out, I had two little kids at the time, go out and do Jewish outreach. I was teaching in a certain place. Head of the yeshiva told me, so listen, you're a natural, I don't have to teach you, you have to see, a Torah giant. So a friend of mine who was drawn close to Judaism, through my Rabbi when he was in South Africa, when he was there in South Africa, he said, no, I'll take you to go speak to him. So he spoke English, like the Queen. I went to go see him and, told him, asked my question, a few other things. Basically, he said, listen, I'm an old man. He said, take my advice. And he said, you don't want to be, like one of these Mickey Mouse rabbis out there. He said, if you're learning well and you don't have financial issues, he said, just sit and learn. You just sit and learn. He said, I promise you. He said, without a vow. He said, I promise you, you want to go out, you go out like fire. But you have to sit and learn. You have to plow through material. You have to learn. So I said, well, you kind of broke my dream in like 3 seconds. So I said, if I'm going to be the one to listen, you have to be the one to teach me. Right. So he said, fine. So I kept making up questions, this, that, and that's how I developed. That's how I developed my connection to him. Now, what did he tell me? So I told the story. What did he tell me? He basically said that even if you want to go out now, even if you have certain knowledge, very good. but you're shortchanging yourself. If you have the opportunity to go through the entire Talmud and the commentaries and this and that, you're going to look different. Your knowledge is going to be different. You have a lot more impact. Now, it could have been, even in my most conceited of time, would I have been successful even if I lacked a lot of knowledge? Could be. Right? All you need is an ability to speak. You don't have to have the greatest knowledge, but if you have the ability to speak, you can influence a lot of people. Doesn't mean, I've seen it a lot where, I don't think certain people have the greatest, amount of knowledge, but they're good speakers. They have power of influence. Okay. So basically, he's telling me you got an opportunity to sit and learn. Now, what's behind what he's saying? Because after 120 years, what would God say? God could say, did a lot of great work, brought a lot of people close to Torah mitzvahs, very good. But you know what? You had an opportunity for 10 years. Let's say 10 years, 15 years, whatever it would have been. Let's say 10 years better. You had an opportunity for 10 years to go through most of the time, to gain that knowledge. Now, through that knowledge, you could have been who knows what in the Torah world. Now, it didn't hurt that, in those 10 years, I developed this, connection with my Rabbi, and, I saw what went on in Basted, I saw what happens in, in a Jewish court. I got to take him around. I got to pick his brain, so to speak, unbelievable influence they had on me. I hope at least a little bit rubbed off. Yeah. That most people never see in 10 lifetimes. That I gained. No question. No question. But there could have been a claim. In heaven. Say, listen, you want to go out and save the world. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, convinced you. Because you want to have a name. You wanted this. Whatever it is. Right? But you could have sat and learned. You could have been, let's say a person had that potential. Let's say a person had that potential to be a Torah giant, and you didn't. That's going to be a tremendous claim. That is going to be a tremendous claim against you. So some people have this knock against Chabad. I have a lot of respect for what Chabad does, but people only learn for a few years and they go out, right? They go all over the world, and do Jewish outreach. So some would say they should, they sit and learn longer, gain more knowledge. Now, not everyone can do that, financially, but I'm talking about a case where you could have, where a person had that ability. In my case, exponentially, I could have sat and learned for years. Yeah, and I did till I couldn't anymore. But, that's almost, I would say, that's almost 10 years, 9 years, 10 years, almost. But I learned a lot in that time. So that could be a claim. Right? So we always have this fear, and this is what this person's driven by. There's a fear, I want to reach my potential. I don't want to have any issues. Yeah, I don't want God to have a claim against me. Okay. So I told them, you got a year. Try and save people that, we live. Try and convince these idolaters to be noahide. I said, see if you have any level of success. See where it goes. Right? See where it goes. And then, you want to be a Jew? Fine. You do that on the side. Because that's what one of the things Rabbi told me. He says, you want to do outreach? Okay. 1 night a week. 1 night a week, go out, teach, whatever. Maybe a couple nights a week, to get it like, quote unquote, out of your system. You want to get out of your system? Do that. I did that. Felt success. But main thing was I was learning all day. So I said, if you have success, good. I said that the point is that if you want to be a Jew, that should be your focus after that. Doesn't mean you can't go back and do this, right? But again, if there's no obligation, and the point was, if there's no obligation for a Jew to reach out to non-Jews to help them keep their mitzvahs unless they come to you, all the more so, like we say a kosher gain, all the more so an non-Jew. Why would a non-Jew have that obligation? Now, there are people that feel, I've heard this argument many times also, they feel they could influence with their knowledge, influence other non-Jews better if they were non-Jewish instead of being Jewish. Okay. There is what to be said for that. Founder of the noahide movement, 30, 40 years ago, all the Indiana Jones movies were kind of patting after him. Vendel Jones, right? Vendel Jones felt a lot of things that he needed to do, wanted to do. He felt were better to be a non-Jew than be a Jew. Now, I think all his kids converted. But the question is, I told this person, the question is, the Gemara says that a non-Jew, if they have the ability to convert, now only God knows, because nobody, no one can see a person's heart truly, except for God. Now, if a person had the ability to convert, we're not looking for non-Jews to convert, right? We're not looking for converts, not interested in converts, right? Converts giving the Jewish people a bad name throughout the millennium. But again, if a convert says, potential convert says, I'll do whatever it takes, I want to be the real deal, good. And there's a mitzvah to help them. So, but not everyone has to convert, right? Even if they want to convert, doesn't mean they should necessarily. Now, I'm not here to discourage people. I just want to point out. The Gemara says, let's say a person had the ability to convert. They could have moved. They could have done other things. Something stopped them. Now, God could look at it and say, you had the ability to convert. You didn't want to. Right? Again, it's catch-22, because someone's going to say, come on, we don't have an obligation to convert. You're right. There is no obligation to convert. But if God sees deep down in your heart that you had the power, you had the ability to convert, very good. You should have. Unless the person was, it was out of their control, right? Other things happened where they couldn't. Okay. Who's going to judge that? God's going to judge that. So I said, okay, you got two paths in front of you. One of them is staying on Jew, and be out there working with non-Jews and trying to convince. Working with non-Jews is one thing. A person wants to know how well as well. They can teach others, let's say, good. But who says they still have an obligation to work with, to try and convince idolaters to be noahide? If they want to be taught, good. If they want to be taught, why is that their obligation? Right? So again, you got two roads in front of you. First road is that staying on Jew, try and convince the world to be noahide. Okay. The other path in front of you, have a real desire to convert. Yeah, after a year, right? Then they're going to focus on conversion. Very good. Does a non-Jew have an obligation to try and convince noahides? No. None. They want to work with them, teach them, whatever, but certainly not to draw them close. Jews don't have an obligation. Non-Jews don't have an obligation. Now, if this person has a serious desire to convert, what's going to happen? What potentially could happen after they die, after 120 years? God's going to slaughter them. He's going to say, well, you're busy working with these non-Jews. Yeah, that wasn't your purpose. Your purpose was you could have sat and learned for 10 years. You could have been the greatest Jew. You could have upheld the world. Right? So it is a little bit dodgy, as the English would say here. Yeah, not so simple. Not so simple. Why? Because on one hand, maybe the person will have tremendous influence. Tremendous influence, but what was his obvious proof? They should do it. What was the obvious proof? Proof was, look at Abraham. Right? It's a good question by Abraham. Abraham went out and convinced the world to be noahide, essentially. Right? Believe in one God. He brought absolute morality to the world. True. Very, very true. Now, based on that, he said, if he can do it, why shouldn't I do it? But since Abraham came to the world, besides Christians who go out and proselytize, we don't proselytize. Yeah. So I asked him the following question. I said, since Abraham did that, did anyone else in the world after Abraham even do such a thing or come close? No. I mean, not that I know of. Anyone knows people, be open to hear. But nobody did that. And not only that, I said, what happened to all the converts? Yeah. It says that Abraham and Sarah made souls in Haran. Made souls means they converted a lot of people. What happened to all the students? Not my question. Commentators asked the question. So what happened? What happened to all these students? They disappeared. You don't hear anything. The thoughts of the commentaries say, what happened to his students? The leader went, right? Remember, Parshas Lechucha, Lechucha me'artzecha. God says, leave. Leave everything you know. Your land, your father's home. Leave everything. So he left. There was no one else of any stature that could work with everyone else left behind. I mean, must have had thousands of students. Must have had brilliant people there. Some couldn't find anyone to teach them, to work with them, to lead them. Don't know. But I said, what happened? What happened was they disappeared. They totally disappeared. Right? So, so too, technically speaking, according to the Torah, a man can have two wives. Technically speaking, there was a takana, a decree of Rabbeinu Gershom, right, that actually has been up more than, 10, 15 years, 20 years, or something like that, that there was a decree that you can't marry two wives. Now, even if we would say according to the Torah, without getting into all the details, even if we could say that according to the Torah, a man can marry two wives. Yeah, look at all the cases in history and how they went. Anyone who had more than one wife, it was a disaster. Seemingly, it was a disaster. So now, based on those two things, even if it would be permissible, what are the end results? If the end results are bad, what would that tell me? If the end results were bad or didn't come out the way it should, what would it tell me? Then it was a mistake. It wasn't a good thing. You see that Jacob's married two wives. What happened? What happened? He understood he married the wrong person first, right? Because Rachel gave Leah the signs, right? So he really should have been able to be married to her, because Gemara says if you don't know who you're marrying, then it's not valid. But he understood children of Israel were supposed to be built up through her also. But it wasn't an ideal situation by any stretch. There are a lot of cases like this, right? So even if you tell me according to the books, right, that you're allowed to do it, even if that would be the case, what's the end result? Right? What is the end result? Right? What is the end result? The end result is a disaster. Right? Absolutely. Absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. So it really doesn't matter. Right? The point is that if it's not good, it doesn't end up good, then it wasn't a good thing in the first place. Right? That's how it would come up. That's how it would come up. So my short answer was that I don't think that's your purpose in life. That's for sure not your purpose in life. Right? And that means if you get upstairs after 20 years, I'll take responsibility for this. I don't think too many people are going to disagree. Right? And that is that it could be for some people, it's better for them to remain a non-Jew. But to try and convince non-Jews to be noahide, or be a convert to Judaism, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Right? That's what I would say to that. Someone asks, all right, take some questions here. I see the laws of kashrus are simple to observe in general. But there are a lot of specifics. Very good. There are. Tremendous amount of specifics. What if someone renders your food non-kosher? Yeah, let's say you're cooking meat and someone pours milk into it. Yeah, can't eat it. Can't benefit from it. Right? You gotta throw out the food, you can kasher the pot. Can you sue the person for damages? It's a good question. First of all, it's not going to be major damages. Anyway, the pot can be kosher unless it's not a metal pot. But let's say, for argument's sake, pot can be kosher. The utensils can be kosher. The food has to be thrown out. That's true. Throwing out the food, could you sue them? I mean, the only thing you can sue them for is the value of the food. Maybe. Right? But maybe that's considered getting benefit also. Right? There are three things that the Torah says you can't cook a calf with its mother's milk. First one is you can't cook it even if no one eats it. You can't eat it, can't get benefit. So in that case, you're getting benefit because you're getting the money back. You're getting the money back of what you spent. So that should be forbidden. If it was, they made something treif, that you can get benefit from. Meat and milk can't get benefit from. All right, that's one question. Rise of women's work opportunities allowed for a number of family members' work arrangements. Okay, many argue that even Orthodox family requires both salads, right? Because tuition is extremely expensive. Raising kids expensive, right? On the side, other than Orthodox communities say the husband should study in kollel, right? Should study, right, and learn, right? Which view is supported by Jewish tradition? Really, a woman shouldn't work. Woman has kids, she should be at home. She should definitely be home, right? Much, much better situation if she's not out running ragged, this and that. True. Now, based on economics today, woman has to work, usually. Right? Usually that is the case. Now, the question is, guy wants to sit and learn. That's what a lot of people do after they get married, at least for a few years. Right? Now, Aaron Cutler, blessed memory, started the yeshiva in Lakewood, New Jersey, brought this to the forefront. I mean, you're talking about when people thought, Orthodoxy was dead, right? Having as an ideal, guys sitting and learning, and women working. Now, that's not necessarily the ideal in the sense where women have to raise kids also. It's hard, right? It's very hard to do both, right? Now, why is it an ideal? So just explain that for a second, that the fact that person sitting and learning, growing in spirituality, the house looks different. Definitely looks different. I'm not saying a person, learns a couple hours a day, maybe an hour in the morning, an hour at night, right? It's not the same as you're learning all day. Now, some people are not cut out to learn all day. Okay, whatever it is. So if a woman has that ideal, not every woman does, because you do struggle, right? Because you don't bring as much money. But let's say a woman agrees. She's convinced that's what she wants. Okay. Now, most likely they're getting helped also by family. But even so, the ideal is a woman should be home, 100%. And you need a lot more money, 100%. But if a woman's willing to self-sacrifice for however long, until she can't do it anymore, and she wants her husband to sit and learn, nothing wrong with that. That doesn't go against the Torah. Yeah, you have to understand also, in Europe, you only had cream of the crop who were really learning. Everyone else working, but again, it was a very poor society. But even so, since the Holocaust, we lost such rabbinic scholars, that, we're trying to replenish. Today, the problem is the person long-term learning. Yeah. So, it's harder. In other ways, let's say to marry off kids and whatever, but people do it. Pretty miraculous. I've done it, a number of times. And Satmar Rebbe once said, blessed memory, people think the biggest miracle was, the 6-Day War. So he says the biggest miracle he claimed was how ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel marry off the kids. It's one thing trying to stay on top of things, very good. Get a lot of expenses, this and that. Marrying off kids, different calculation altogether. Right? So again, yeah, there's a little bit of dichotomy. On the one hand, you got the idea that women should be at home. On the other hand, we're building up the generation. Now look at what the generation looks like. It's unbelievable in many ways. More people sitting and learning than the time of the Second Temple. It's not the same quality of learning, but it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to think about. The sheer numbers. Of people learning. I mean, over the age of 25 is not a huge amount, right? People claim there's so many people sitting and learning. It's like, come on, how many over the age of 25? Over the age of 25 full time. Right? Heard someone say this once. They want to tell me 10,000. All right, it's a joke. It's not that many, right? I'm saying over the age of 25, right? So now, you say there are 14 million people. You say there, let's say 25, 50,000, which is not the case, but let's say that's like a quarter of 1%. People say, look at all the people sitting and learning. It's a quarter of 1%. You're gonna say, no, we got to build up the masses. Got to get more people out there, but it's a big misnomer. It's not that sheer number, but we need to replenish certainly from the Holocaust. We need to teach people. We have to give them an opportunity. You got to give them an opportunity to see what they become. There's a discrepancy in the Torah. It says when a Levi starts to work, one place says 25, another place says 30. So what's the answer? So Rashi says you give them 5 years to see what's going to come out of them. If they learn for 5 years and you see that they're not really gaining or growing, then okay, they'll never see success in learning. But you got to give them an opportunity. You got to give an opportunity to do that. So even though you tell me, right, women should be at home, whatever, but they need to be out there anyway because, you need 2 salaries. But if a woman has that idea, she wants her husband to work, there's nothing wrong with it. Right? It's only in the ultra-Orthodox community that's the case. Non-Orthodox community more interested in being lawyers and doctors and this and that, right? Maybe a rabbi's down the list, so to speak, but they're big on working. Hasidim as well, right? Maybe they'll learn for a couple years, but their big thing is working. Okay, so it's only really one camp. It's really one camp altogether, and that is the ultra-Orthodox who, are very much into long-term learning if possible. But, but again, long-term learning, how's the person going to survive in this and that? It's okay. It's not easy. Marrying off kids is not easy. But I would say even if the guy was working, marrying off kids is going to be an issue anyway. You got to rely on God anyways, no question. So a friend of mine once said, he said, I have so many girls like you do. It's like, you got to tell me how you did it, how you married off. Each one's their own miracle. I can tell stories. I'm not going to do it now, but each one is its own, it's its own miracle. That is what I would say on that. Someone asked a bunch of questions. Let me see. Someone asked, the Torah commands something such as don't kidnap, as in 10 commandments, right? 10 commandments say don't steal. Don't steal means don't kidnap. 100%. Because it says don't steal in other places, means don't kidnap. Okay. Or other commandments. Is it referring to interaction between Jews only? Or does it apply to other interactions? When the Torah says anything, in general, right? Unless there are exceptions. When God says to Moses, I spoke to Moses, say, I spoke to Moses this, that, the other thing. Yeah. Who's he talking to? He's talking to Jews. Not talking to non-Jews. Right? When Torah says keep Shabbos, that apply to Jews or non-Jews? Jews. Now, non-Jews may have part in it, depending what it is and how they're allowed to keep it. It's certainly not like a Jew, but applies to Jews, right? There are 3 signs that apply to Jews, do not apply to non-Jews. Bris Milah, circumcision, the Torah says it's a sign between me and the Jewish people. Tefillin, right? The prophet says the sign between God and the Jewish people, and Shabbos. Those 3 things. And it's very funny because I hear, non-Jews tell me 2 out of the 3 they for sure want to do, right? Or they for sure do, tefillin and Shabbos. Circumcision, some do, some don't. Whatever it is. But in general, when the Torah is speaking, he's addressing Jewish people, not non-Jews. Right? Not non-Jews. Right? Now, there are certain things that God will address to Jews that do apply. If non-Jews, with certain things with non-Jews, that is true. Right? But in general, general Torah is for Jews. right? So how they're going to interact with non-Jews and other things, okay. Yeah, but when the Torah says, not just the Ten Commandments, anywhere else, it applies to Jews. Right? It's very funny. Sometimes you get these super noahides saying, yeah, this applies to me and I can do this and I can do that, but doesn't. The Gemara says, a non-Jew keeps Shabbos liable for death penalty. Now, anyone in the process of conversion, they should keep Shabbos, but they have to do something to break it on purpose. Okay, break it on purpose. That I hear. That for sure I hear. But to say non-Jew can keep it like a Jew, or a non-Jew can refrain from certain of the categories like a Jew, that's also a problem. Like they're not going to touch muktzah, or they're not going to, use anything electronic or something like that. Not all the categories, even one makes it problematic. Tell me one thing Yeshua did that was against the Torah. Why does he nullify it? Why doesn't he have to keep kosher? Because he came and died for our sins. Come on. The Torah doesn't tell me. I'll say the onus of proof is on the other side. The Torah doesn't tell me anywhere. 5 books of Moses does not tell me anywhere that I can negate anything in the Torah. I spoke to someone yesterday interested in becoming a Reformed Jew. I asked them, where do you see in the Torah that the Torah is ever abrogated? That the Torah says I don't have to keep kosher. The Torah says I don't have to keep modesty. I don't have to keep Shabbos. Any of these things. Right? The Torah doesn't tell me anywhere. Right? You'll say, oh, this is what it means. This is what it represents. Yeah. That's what you tell me. That's it. So that doesn't really matter. What do Jews don't mourn with literal sackcloth? Why don't they? I don't know. It's a good question. But when we mourn, there are a lot of mourning customs. That's not one of them. That's definitely not one of them. Why don't we put on sackcloth? I don't know. It's a good question. Interesting question. I have to look it up. Second question. Why did God give all this wealth to the Arabs? Oh, why did he give wealth to the Arabs? Why give wealth to the Arabs? Why does an Arab have any merits? Right? In general. Right? So some say I'm trying to think what exactly what exactly the merit was. It's brought down that what did Yishmael do? It was a special covenant made with him as well. Bris Milah, circumcision. Now they do the same type of circumcision, right, as we do. But because of circumcision, when was Yishmael circumcised? The age of 13. So I think it's brought down the Zohar that Yishmael gets married for doing circumcision at that age. 100 years for every day, every year. So 13 times 100 is 1,300 years. So they're able to have dominion in the world for 1,300 years, have a certain level of dominion in the world. Then after that, that's it. Their time is up, which is right about now, right? Which is, we're in that era right now where, even though it looks really bad and what's going on now, but, they're going to get them all. So their time is running out. But they had merit through that, right? That there's a covenant through that, right, with Yishmael. But that's limited. It's limited in time, right? It's 100 years again. It's 100 years for every year of his life. When he did Bris Milah, so 100 times 13 is 1,300. right? It would be 1,300 years. Someone asks, all right, that I answered, you missed it. Are the Jewish people today the Israelites of scripture prophecy? Yes. Who else would they be? Right now, if you look at Ezekiel chapter 20, which I went through, it just says, if you look over there clearly, it says, yeah, we're punished. We got thrown out of the land. We got dispersed, right? We did idolatry and other things. So, yeah, we were severely punished. Very good. Now, even if that's true, and we were thrown out of the land, and we were dispersed, and we didn't keep Shabbos properly, and we did idolatry, we did all these terrible things. Very good. That is true. Does Ezekiel over there say we're not Jewish anymore? Does Ezekiel ever say we're not chosen anymore? He doesn't say that. Totally doesn't say that. It just says we're dispersed. We were thrown out. We did terrible things. Doesn't say we're not chosen anymore. Doesn't say we're not Jews anymore. Not only that, even by the end of days, there's always going to be a remnant of the Jewish people. Jewish people are never going to totally disappear. But the bottom line is God himself has to say we're not chosen anymore. Or through a prophet, either way. He's got to say we're not chosen anymore. We don't deserve it anymore. Right? That source doesn't say that at all. It just says we were dispersed and we made mistakes. Okay. What about Jeremiah chapter 30? Right? It says we're going to reconnect. We need to reconnect. The temple's going to be destroyed. Okay. We're going to get severely punished. Very good. Severely punished. Yeah. You read some things what happened during the Second Temple. It's pretty horrific. Pretty horrific. Okay. Does that mean there's not going to be Jewish people left? And if we're not Jews, who are we? We're the other Jews. We're the real Jews, quote unquote. He's not telling you that. He's not telling you that at all. He's just telling you you've been dispersed. Good. You've been punished. Good. Yeah. We're not who we're supposed to be. Who are we supposed to be? Right? If we're not the real Israelites, then no, we are. That would be the case. Israelites, the scripture prophecy have to fit the prophecies. Doesn't the Torah say clear? Many prophecies in the Torah. Doesn't the Torah state clear? Clear as day. If you do what you're supposed to do, you'll have food, you'll have water, you'll stay in the land, right? You look at the book of Leviticus. It says if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we get thrown out of the land. Prophecy, that's prophecy. Does that mean we're not chosen? Does that mean we're not Jews? No, it's reward and punishment. That doesn't change. Nothing about that ever changes, right? You want to say it's deception? I mean, again, the Torah states clear. The Torah states very clear. Very, very clear. You do what you're supposed to do, good. You don't do what you're supposed to do, there'll be punishment. There could be severe punishment. Okay. So what does that have to do with anything else? What does that have to do with the fact that, oh, you're not Jews anymore? What do you mean? A Jew is a Jew no matter what. Even if a Jew marries a non-Jew. Yeah. Can they repent? They can repent. Yeah, they can repent. They go against the 13 principles of Maimonides. Can they repent? Yes. Can they lose the status of a Jew? Yes, technically speaking. Yeah, but a Jew is a Jew. Doesn't change. Right? Never changes. I just proved you wrong. Someone asked if a non-Jew has half a bris. Meaning, right? Even the fine. Even the Jews get spit out of the land. Very good. Right? Right? Even if that's the case, we coming back. Yeah. If the Jewish people coming back, what's it talking about? If we get spit out of the land, who goes back to the land? Who goes into the land? Jews. Doesn't say anybody else. Jews. Right? It's pretty clear. But a non-Jew that's half a bris. So still give him some schus. You see, Arabs do. Arabs they don't have a full circumcision. So they're punished. They're not punished. They don't get the same merit as the Jew, but they get merit for sure. There is a whole question, the whole discrepancy, whether the children of Keturah, right, that Abraham had children with with Hagar. Yeah, whether they have to go through circumcision or not. But they don't do the same type of circumcision, but it's a merit. It's a huge merit for them. I mean, that merit's going to be up soon, right? Just about up right now. Those 1,300 years, but that would be the case. And if he commits pagam bris, if he spills seed, there's a big question. It doesn't matter if they have half a bris or not, right? If they have half a circumcision or not, doesn't really matter. The point is, are non-Jews obligated not to spill seed? That's a huge, huge discrepancy. Huge discrepancy among rabbinic authorities. If you'd ask me personally, non-Jews shouldn't do it, right? It had nothing to do with circumcision or not, right? That's not the issue. The issue is, should they do it or not, right? Again, it's a major, I'm not going to go into it, right? Other people discuss it much more in length than I'm going to do, right? Point is, it's a major discrepancy among rabbinic authorities. And if you're going to ask me and pin me down, should non-Jew do it? No, they shouldn't do it. I read it for the Jewish people today. Yeah, I read it. Okay, I read it. I gave my answer. That's it. Yeah. Somebody asks. 1 second here. Somebody asks over here by Orla. 1 second. First 3 years of a fruit's tree's life is oral, right? Leviticus chapter 19, verse 23. Very good. Ramban explains first fruits must be brought to the temple. Very good. Right? Usually, okay. Yeah, therefore fall under global prohibition. Tu B'Shvat of the 4th year, the fruits move into the next phase. Fine. Right? During the oral years, you may not derive any benefit. Okay. What if a horticulturist studies oral fruits? Are we allowed to benefit from the fruits of their research? Benefit means eating them. I think today, I could be wrong, but most trees will not bear fruit in the first year, usually. Right? It's going to usually take 3 years, but even if it would give fruit in the first year or second year, right, can't get benefit from it. Now, to do experiments on it, that's not benefit. I don't benefit, I think over here means, I could be wrong, I don't think so, but I think what it means is eating it. You're not allowed to eat it. If you could eat it, if it's edible, right? If it's not edible, it's a different issue, right? But doing experiments on it, I don't think it's a problem. I don't think that's the forbidden usage. I think forbidden usage is actually eating it. Could you, if you would take one of these fruits and make it a hybrid with another fruit, that would be forbidden. Be forbidden for 2 reasons. One, you're getting benefit from it, but you're also making a hybrid out of it, right? That you can't do, right? That for sure you can't do. So that type of experiment you wouldn't be allowed to do. You probably wouldn't be allowed to do. Could be other things you are. It depends. I think it depends really what it is. Someone points out that not enough hours, right? What should I prioritize? I'll tell you. Someone asked Rabbi Salanter this question. What should I learn? I only have a certain amount of time to learn. Rabbi Salanter, founder of the Musar movement, right? So he answered, just study Musar. So one of his students asked him, what do you mean, study ethics? That's the main thing I should study? So Rabbi Salanter said, if you study ethics, then you realize you really have more time than you think to learn. So you end up learning more, right? So you got to prioritize, right? Anyone who wants to convert, you got to find the time. But, what are the most important things to learn? The laws of Shabbos, the laws of blessings. These things come up every week and every day, right? Those things you have to get down. Now, you have to learn Hebrew. You have to learn how to read Hebrew. You have to know how to pray. I mean, you got to find time to do these little by little. I would say if someone wants to learn Hebrew, you got to practice a certain amount a day, right? You practice a little bit a day, to get yourself, to read up to speed, so to speak. Listen, a person can learn all day and still not cover everything. It's true, right? You got to prioritize whatever amount of time you have. I would say the most important thing, is to learn the laws of Shabbos, the laws of blessings, right? Very much in depth. You should definitely learn the Torah portion of the week every week, right, on Shabbos, or during the week as well, just to get, feeling what's going on the right way. That's what I would say. How can we prove our Torah study? That's a good question. How do you prioritize? Oh, sorry. How do you improve? I would say improvement should come automatic. What do I say automatic? It means that when a person learns, the more they learn, they're getting building blocks. The more building blocks they get, the more knowledge they have, and the more depth of knowledge they have. It's one thing to know what to do, right? That's one thing, to know what to do. The next thing is, you have a question like, why do we do this? Like, why is this say like this over here and there's contradiction over here? That's a different type of question. So you see, slowly but surely, person gets building blocks, right? You'll see the different types of questions that a person has. They're not always the same. Not just, oh, what does this mean, right? They'll have deeper questions. So the way you improve Torah study, really, for the most part, is to review. Go over it and over it and over it till you know it like the back of your hand. So that way, if someone asks you something, you know what to answer. That apply more to men than to women, but women also has to know what to do. So yeah, it's not a fun thing to do to review, but you got to review. You got to review all the time. So Torah becomes like second nature. You have no questions. That things like the back of your hand. It's not so much fun, but that's how you definitely improve memory. Just keep going over and over and over and over. Right? That's what I would say. And consistency. If you learn at a certain time, you should learn at a certain time every day. You should be consistent. Right? But you're going to see exponentially at some point. You'll see bits and pieces of things that you learn. You'll see, everyone always wants to learn new things. That's good, right? But you also got to review what you already know. Right? I remember the Ramchal, Path of the Just, right, says that you have to know things. You have to improve on things you already know. Right? I found that to be an unbelievable chiddush, unbelievable novelty. If you're going to tell me things you don't know, you got to prove on, you got to work on good. But if I'm already good at it, tell a professional athlete that's good at a certain thing. Yeah, whatever it is in their craft that they're good at, and tell them you have to practice that a lot also. They're going to say, what are you talking about? It's never going to atrophy. I can do it like the back of my hand, boom, 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 right? But Ramchal's telling you, you want to keep it up, you want to be even better, you got to keep up even things that you're good at, right? Same thing. You got to review, right? You got to review a lot. You have to review a lot. That's pretty much how you improve, because it'll affect your memory. You remember more. At least you remember more, let's say, where things are and whatever, and that'll improve your learning as well. How do we pray for Yom Kippur? We're not even in El yet. What do you mean? How do you pray for Yom Kippur? What if you offended someone unintentionally? If you're unaware, you're unaware. Then how do you repent for something you're unaware of? Right? So in the prayers of Yom Kippur and the Shemona Esrei, we say things that I know and I don't know. So God's going to remember, but that's why you take an accounting. That's why you take a self-accounting every day, right? You want, for things so things you don't forget. You don't forget. If you offended someone unintentionally, well, let's say they got offended. So what does it matter if you did it unintentionally? If they got offended, you got to apologize. Any action between man and man, no matter how many Yom Kippurs you go through, no matter how much fasting you do, you will not in any way, shape, or form get atonement even after you die, because you didn't ask them you didn't try to appease them. You did not try to apologize, right? Even if it's unintentional. Unintentional, you got to repent for that, right? It doesn't matter if you didn't have intention. All the more so if you had intention. That's worse, right? If you had intention, that's worse. Someone there says, looks like God's clearing out the land. Yeah, Gaza, Lebanon, Judea. I don't know, gonna be interesting. Gonna be interesting to see. It doesn't have to, right? In theory, it doesn't have to. Messiah can come either way. Some say it's not possible to understand the laws of Shabbos without completing Masechta Shabbos. Well, learning anything I would say learning anything, if you don't learn it from the source, you definitely get something out of it, but you don't get the depth out of it. That is true. Women wouldn't have to do that because they're not obligated, in learning in general, right? They have to know what to do, bottom line. But yeah, you get, the more you prepare, the more you understand, the more depth it has, right? So, anything about the holidays, anything about Shabbos, right? The more in depth you learn, the more knowledge you have, the more you have. Right. And I consider someone who does great Shabbos who never studied it. No. Someone who does a great Shabbos means he does a great Shabbos. It doesn't matter whether you learned it or you did learn. You didn't, you made a mistake, right? Or a series of mistakes. If that's the case, then most people throughout history have been considered Machal Shabbos. That's not the case. Even if someone does a great Shabbos, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether you learn the tractate or not. The Chofetz Chaim says in the introduction to the third part of the Mishnah Berurah, where he goes to the laws of Shabbos, he says clearly, if you don't constantly review the laws of Shabbos, you will transgress. You're not cursing anyone. He's saying that's a fact. You will transgress 100%. They have to review. So it doesn't matter whether you learn the tractate or not. You have to know what to do, right? So not learning the tractate has nothing to do whether you consider desecration Shabbos or not. Did you desecrate it or not? That's the question. If you did, okay. But it has nothing to do with learning the tractate. Whatever situation, you're praying so hard that on particular days you feel drawn, he's bodedus. And not prayer from the prayer book. So there is what to be said, for, let's say, going to pray, alone, go pray in a forest or whatever, but that's not the norm. The norm is you pray from a prayer book. You want to do that on your own time? Not a problem. Not a problem. You can be drawn to it 100%, not a problem. But even people who are drawn to it pray with a minion, right? They pray with 10 men. Now they should pray every day with 10 men. They want to go out in the forest and and do his bodedus and be alone and whatever. That's not a problem if they want to do that, right? But that does not circumvent prayer, right? Right. So if you want to ask me, should a person spend an entire day doing it? No. You don't nullify prayers. Even if you keep saying the same things over and over and over again, doesn't matter. These prayers were designed, by the rabbis who, a lot of them, a number of them were prophets. Yeah. You listen to what they say. I'm not saying there's not a place for it, but it doesn't circumvent prayer. Now you can ask other people to say maybe it does. I doubt it. I doubt it. You got to pray with a minion. You got to pray with 10 men. A full day? No. A full day that circumvents not praying with 10 men. God, I'll tell you what's brought down, that if you have 10 men, even if there are a lot of sinners there, even if people sin in yourself, if we've done things wrong, God still hears the prayers, right? He hears them collectively. If you pray by yourself, unless you have no choice, right? But essentially, if you pray by yourself, God's going to scrutinize that prayer 10 times more. So you'd say, I'm doing meditation, I'm doing other things, I'm working to be at a high level. Great. How many people are going to pass that test? Maybe a handful, maybe. But that's not what he wants. He wants you to pray with a minion. Doesn't mean you can't do your own hisbodedus. You want to do it in a whole day? No. You want to do a part of the day? Okay. But it shouldn't come to circumvent what you're obligated to do. Yeah, let me see a few other questions here. Someone says, because of, why did the Arabs mention it? Merit, so much power today because of Hagar's modesty. I don't know, maybe it's part of it. But listen, she repented. That's why he married her. And she definitely repented. So she has the merit. Definitely has the merit, right? But I think it's still true what I said. Someone here says, probably learn considering where she came from. Okay. Um, so it's hard to learn how to read when the nikud is excluded, right? If you don't have vowels. So some people have said, which I disagree, but some people have said better get a prayer book that's transliterated. And at least you know how to say the words. But if you properly, the problem is in the long term, if you properly learn how to read Hebrew, you might have to relearn everything you already, you might realize you said a number of things wrong in pronunciation. You have to go relearn it again. But some people have said it helps a lot. So I'm not a big fan of it. But if someone wanted to get a transliterated prayer book, they could. It'll help them in the short run. I think in the longer run, it makes more problems though. Yeah. Any other questions? Art Scroll has right. A lot of prayer books have what do you call it? Most prayer books have vowels, right? It's only like if you're reading something that maybe learning from many books, yeah, that don't have vowels. Okay, right? But most prayer books certainly do have vowels, no question. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, someone found something weird. Yeah. Can I send it? Can you discuss or would you be privately? Send it to me, whatever it is. It says, I think they took it out of context. Yeah, email it to me. You can email it to me. Let me see. Yeah, any other questions? Am I dead yet? No, still going here. Ah, yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook. I'm Chaim Kaufman. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics for our fathers, book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Wishing everyone a good beginning.